Welcome to the Australian Business Executive Podcast, where we speak with Australia's most influential industry professionals on the business and economic development issues taking place across the country. You can stay up to date with all our content, including our magazines, podcasts and videos by visiting www.theabe.com.au and clicking on subscribe.
Paul Brennan was appointed the CEO of PolyNovo in 2015. He has extensive knowledge, exposure, and understanding of the health system through his clinical background and commercial exposure with various multinational companies. He has coordinated the marketing, global strategy, development, new product development, and regulatory processes for the Asia-Pacific region for industry-leading organizations in relation to medical products and devices. His previous experience includes marketing director and sales director with Smith & Nephew Healthcare from 2008 to his commencement with PolyNovo in 2015. Paul, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure.
So, firstly, can you explain to us what PolyNovo does?
Yeah, PolyNovo makes a range of medical devices out of a unique polymer that's biodegradable and very cell-friendly, meaning that it's non-toxic to new cells. So we help reconstruct damaged tissue in a variety of fields with a novel polymer that you then excrete through your urine or breathe off through your lungs.
And we touched on it briefly in the introduction, but before you came into PolyNovo, do you want to expand on your corporate experience before joining the organization?
Yeah, well, I suppose my background, I've always had a curiosity in manufacturing and product development at Convatec, Ansell and Smith & Nephew. So I've always been curious as to how each part of the business works. And when the opportunity came to apply for the CEO role here at PolyNovo, thought it was a very good synthesis of all the things that I've been doing in other areas, concentrated into one role. It's ever-changing, very dynamic. We're fast-growing. It's very challenging, but a lot of those core strengths on marketing, corporate structures, quality management systems, manufacturing are things I've been able to draw on in this role.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the technology that PolyNovo offers. For people that might not know much about it, can you take us through what it does in practice and its applications?
Sure. The first product that we've got to market is NovoSorb, a biodegradable temporizing matrix. That's a long name, but we shorten it down to BTM. And basically, whenever you lose the underlying structure of your skin, which is called the dermis, that's the layer of your skin that has all the blood vessels, fat, elastin, and cellular structures. You may lose that through excision, such as a wide excision of a melanoma, road trauma, burn, reconstructive surgery, infections, a wide variety of causes. We can actually regenerate that dermal layer by putting in our unique polymer, and your cells of the dermis grow back into that layer and revascularize. It remains inside you for up to 12 months, and it dissolves away over that period. And as I said before, you excrete it through your urine predominantly as lactic acid, and you're left with a very supple and mobile skin as you would normally have, and a very good cosmetic and functional outcome. So that product is now on sale in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa and the United States, with other markets coming on stream shortly, such as Israel and Saudi Arabia. So that's the sort of first product to market, and then we'll talk a little bit later, but the next range of products will be our breast products and our hernia products.
Okay. And what, behind the scenes, what's the process to take something like this to market? Can you take us through a little bit of the development of this through to commercialization?
Sure. Well, the technology was invented by the CSIRO and spun out into a listed company to fund its development pathway in 2004. It's had a bit of a tortuous path in various corporate ownerships, but we had a company restructure and a new board come on board in 2014 and really put the investment behind getting this product commercialised and developed. So since 2014, we've built a clean room manufacturing facility, enhanced our quality management system, built our regulatory team, our R&D science team as well. And we've done all of the animal studies that were required and all the laboratory works. And now we've got a product that's fit for human use and has proved itself in human use to be exceptionally good. I might be overstating it because of my enthusiasm, but it is a very good product which gives very good both aesthetic and functional outcomes for patients who have been treated with it. What's unique about it is that in this space, the products that are used today are animal-derived. So they're biological products, and so they've got foreign proteins in them. By having a purely synthetic product that is bioreabsorbed by your body and replaced with your own tissue, you have no foreign proteins or foreign body risk with this product compared to using a biological product.
And so what does that mean for the organization in terms of, its overall growth? You mentioned it as a polymer. It can be made into, medical devices or almost anything. So, where do you guys see the pathways to application for this?
The pathways are as broad as your imagination can take you in reality. But the stark reality or the commercial reality is that you can only do so much at any one time. So for us at the moment, it's about the biodegrading temporizing matrix, BTM, having that established commercially within the market, bringing on our hernia range of products. So we'll make products for hernia repairs that also bioreabsorb and disappear, and a range of breast products, a sling, a cover, and possibly a breast prosthesis, which we're partnering with another company, Establishment Labs, to bring those products to market. Over and above that, there's a range of other things that are the sort of second tier of development, such as a drug-eluting pellet. So imagine a polymer that has up to half its weight as a drug, and as that polymer dissolves, it releases a measured dose of a drug per day. Now, when you have chronic diseases where you might have poor compliance by patients, we may in the future be able to inject a bead under the skin, and as that dissolves over a 6-month period, deliver a measured dose of a drug to improve compliance. We're also growing with another company in Adelaide, beta cell technologies, islet cells, which are from the pancreas that produce insulin, and they can successfully be grown in pig studies within the BTM and produce insulin for type 1 diabetes management. That's still very experimental, but it shows good promise for the future. So there's some of the things that are on the near-term horizon, and there's many on the distant horizon that we could look at. But the here and now, what we're addressing, they would be the immediate 2 tiers of our focus.
And how do you try to identify the overall market opportunity when it has so many different applications?
It's looking at where in the market there's a clinical need. You can make products that we would call them me too, But when you do that, you're not really innovating within the space, and it becomes a price game, and it doesn't really change the outcomes for patients. So what we're focused on is, where are clinicians expressing pain points in treatment modalities, and how can our polymer be applied within that need to address a clinical outcome.
Okay. And from the process of commercialization, for a lot of listeners, they would want to understand, how this is going to make money and how it's going to grow. So we had, initially when we talked about it, you mentioned in Australia, it's part of the TGA, and it has an exemption, which is how you're able to get mass use out of it. Do you want to just explain that process of the regulatory environment, of how it works in Australia, and also with your forward-looking FDA approval?
Sure. Well, first of all, in the US, we already have FDA approval. So we're registered and commercially on sale today in the US and the other markets that I spoke to. For Australia, the current use is under what's called the TGA Prescribers Exemption Scheme, and that's a pre-registration scheme. So it allows individual surgeons to request the use of the product for an individual patient. It's not a blanket acceptance. Concurrent to that, we filed our regulatory dossier with the TGA, and we expect that in the second quarter of 2018, a calendar year, to achieve an ARTG listing, which is the TGA regulatory approval. And that will allow any hospital and any surgeon to purchase the product for its appropriate use without having to go through an exemption application.
And what does that mean for the company and its growth for listeners?
Well, the US market will always be the largest market in the world, and it's also the highest reimbursement or payment that we would achieve for the product. The Australian market, by volume, will be, in a global scale, a relatively small market. It's still a very important one for us as a home market, and also one where we will make good margin and be profitable as a company. So our commercial future looks very strong, but the main focus of the commercial opportunity remains the US, followed by Europe, which will enter in the end of 2018, start of 2019, and then the other countries around the world progressively after that, as we can address the regulatory entry points for each of those.
And how, with this growth into all these new markets, how are you going to handle this? What's the strategy to sell into these countries?
Yes, it's daunting at times, but the reality is the sale of the product in the US should give us sufficient funds to launch our expansion into many of these markets. But we'll review those cash flows and points as we go along the journey. For the strategy of entry, it's going to be country dependent on where these particular products are used. So for us in the American market and the Australian market, it's large surgical wounds are the area of most opportunity. So our focus there is to identify plastic and general surgeons who have advanced skills within this space and target them for the entry into that segment in the hospitals, and then using them as key opinion leaders, bring on other surgeons in more general areas in the use of the product as we go forward.
And I assume your background through your marketing work with Smith & Nephew has given you sort of insights. Is there a particular way that you look to market this product to healthcare professionals?
Yes, well, as I said, it's predominantly a surgeon's cell because it needs the wound bed itself needs to be surgically debrided, and then the product itself actually gets stapled in place into the wound. So that's done under an anaesthetic. So it's very much a surgeon focus for us as a product in how it's going to be used. When surgeons are looking for products, they're looking for several things. One is the efficacy of the product. Does it give a better outcome than what they can currently use? Second, what's the cost impact to the health system? Because they're increasingly under budgetary pressures and accountabilities on the spend. And thirdly, what's the long-term outcome for these patients when they use this product? So Professor John Greenwood recently published his long-term follow-up of the first 5 patients, and that was an outstanding publication, and that's published in Journal of Burns, and gives a very good indication of the long-term reduced scarring rate and also the high elasticity of the skin. So Professor Greenwood's done outstanding clinical work in detailing every aspect of the development of this product and making sure that all of those patients have been followed up in the long term, along with his partner Marcus Wagstaff and the team at Royal Adelaide Hospital. So we've got a very good clinical understanding of the application of the product and the types of surgeons that would be adopting the use of this product in a hospital.
Okay. And with all the growth that you're going through, is there a key driver? I mean, it sounds like there's quite a big push. And when we were speaking previously, you'd mentioned that as an organization, your staff numbers have grown quite incredibly. Is there one particular thing or a series of events that's led to this growth?
There's a multitude of factors in that, but predominantly, our US market entry is the key driver for the expansion of the staff. When we look at staff, people are a very positive resource for any company, and the success of the company relies on the team and the staff and the output that they produce. So our staff are very focused on their particular areas, whether that's quality management systems, manufacturing, regulatory, marketing support, business development, etc., finance. But in all of those, what is central is how does our product enter the market and improve the lives of a person who actually has a terrible need because of their illness or condition to be treated. So as we've expanded into markets, we've needed to service those customers and those needs and expectations, and that's driving the increase in staff numbers. Along with that is our acceleration in research and development of the new product pipelines. So we've delivered the BTM to market, and now we need to deliver to market both the breast products and the hernia products, and then after that, those Tier 2 development products. So they've been the key driver. We've had a very supportive board. Our chairman is very committed to investing in the company to make sure that it can succeed. He famously uses many companies in Australia die of 1,000 cuts, whereas his approach in his business development has always been, if it's a good technology, if there's a good applicable market, find the funds to invest behind it and put the right people in place so that it can be delivered and matured and achieved in the marketplace. So having a very active, engaged and supportive board is essential for our future growth and development, and they've been very good.
And for a company like PolyNovo, when you talk about the investment in R&D, would that typically go to continue to grow your product line or to try to innovate and stay ahead of the curve on your existing products?
Both. So definitely in innovating into the new product lines, as I've already outlined. But for example, in the BTM, the first product to market is what we'd call an unfenestrated version. So it didn't have little holes in the surface film to allow excess body fluids out, rather than collecting as a fluid collection within the product. So the R&D team have worked on a fenestrated version, which means putting little slits in the external film within the production process, which saves probably about 20 minutes in time in the operating theatre in preparation of the product. Now that frees up a nurse or a junior surgeon to do other more productive things than put holes in our film. So it's getting close to our customers, looking at what's their experience, what's their need, and then incorporating those back into the design of a product improvement and then bringing that through the regulatory and quality processes so that we can market it. And we've achieved that with the new fenestrated version and achieved a new 510K approval through the FDA in the US for that.
Paul, that's all the questions that I have from my end. Before we wrap up today, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I think PolyNovo's got a very bright future. Often in Australia, there's the perception that Australia needs to, if we invent something, make it offshore. We're very proud that we do make it here in Port Melbourne. We are employing Australians and we are manufacturing, and this is a unique market space in the world, true innovation out of CSIRO, and very proudly employing Australians and showing that we can, as a country, deliver innovative medical technologies to the world. So it's a very progressive and exciting phase that we're in.
Paul, thanks for your time today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
This has been a production of the Australian Business Executive, a division of Romulus Rising Proprietary Limited. All rights reserved. You can stay up to date with the Australian Business Executive, including our magazines, podcasts and videos, by visiting www.theabe.com.au and clicking on subscribe.